Amara here with Millennium Moonchild, and I just wanted to make a quick video about something that's been on my heart for probably a little bit over 2 years now. I've actually submitted an article about this to Rebel Society about 2 years ago, and it's kind of just been kind of clarified a little bit through me over these past months, and so I kind of want to talk about it. So, what I want to talk about is something that I believe is kind of like humanity's original sin, which is something that I believe is called separation consciousness. And so there are people that have kind of basically have talked about this before. I think that this is kind of like in the collective consciousness right now, that we are kind of, those of us who are a little bit more in tune or awake or whatever you want to call it, just more sensitive, have kind of been tapping into. So I wanted to kind of explain it more clearly. I do have some notes here that I'm going to be kind of looking down and referencing it, but I just want to make sure that what I speak is really clear and understandable. So let's begin. So, what I believe separation consciousness is the belief that we are separate from God, from Source, from whatever it is that you hold as the divine or sacred. And so, I believe it's our original sin. I grew up Christian, in a Christian household. My parents are Jamaican, so I'm first generation American. And so I'm just thinking about the biblical story of Adam and Eve. They sinned when they ate from the tree of knowledge and their eyes were opened and they knew about good and evil. My interpretation, just kind of thinking back over the years of what I thought I've learned, is that I don't think that the sin was necessarily eating from the tree of knowledge. I think the sin came afterwards, if we believe that this is a physical story. But actually, I think it's metaphysical. It's kind of like an allegory. But anyway, the sin, I believe, came when God came walking in the garden and Adam and Eve hid from him. They were ashamed. They felt separate. They felt so ashamed that they couldn't even look God in the face and stand in their power as, divine human beings, that yes, we made this decision, but this doesn't make me, separate from you. I'm still you, God, and I just did this thing, but knowing that in love that I can still come to you. And so I feel like that was the sin, was that they hid from God, and as a result they were literally separated from paradise, from the Garden of Eden, etc. And so, with that being said, I believe that we are all spiritual beings and we're experiencing life in human form. But when we're done with this life and we've done all we came to do during this life, that our souls are going to go back into Source. I also believe that we chose the lives that we currently have, everything down from the parents we have, the life experiences we've been through, the jobs that we have, our partners. Like, we all kind of make contracts on the other side to come in and do certain things for lessons that our soul needs to learn, to integrate, to go back to Source. And then I potentially choose to come back, whether here or another dimension, to learn more lessons until we kind of ascend to our highest form. But that's neither here nor there. But I say that because with that belief, I believe that because our souls come from Source, that we're never ever truly separate from Source, right? We come down, through the womb, and we come into human form, and so we're embodied as a human, but ultimately our souls are still Source. They're never different from Source. Our souls were conceived in Source. We're a part of Source. And so, as humans, we can only ever have other humans, right? We're not going to give birth to other types of animals. And so if we're conceived from Source as spirits, we're always spirit. We were never separate from spirit. Spirit or Source is choosing to experience life through us. So that means every single one of us, human, plant, animal, insect, tree, soil, are all manifestations of Source, down to those of us that are evil, those of us that are epitome of good, those of us who are really sexual or sensual, those of us who are not, who become nuns, who become priests, who become monks. Every single one of us are manifestations of Source. And so that means, like, for me, that means that because we believe we are separate, that is the cause of every single evil we see here on planet Earth at this time. Anything from poverty to disease to, I don't know, terrorism, money issues, those are all because at the core of it, we believe we are separate from Source. And so, and I should clarify disease. I don't mean that you have a disease because you believe you're separate. I mean that the fact that we have disease in humanity and on this planet is a result of our belief of separation from source. And so yeah, so basically, what I believe happens is that when we are born, our souls choose to become to earth, and then we become embodied as humans. And then what happens is when we come here as humans, our goal is to then reintegrate oneness back into our beings. And so, kind of really realizing the ways that we believe we are separate, and then coming back into oneness and wholeness within our bodies as a physical body, as a spiritual body, kind of reintegrating all of that into one whole spiritual being. And so, um, yeah, that's what I believe is kind of like our biggest sin, believing that we are separate. And as a result, we believe we are separate from other people. We believe we are separate from animals. We believe we are separate from the earth, which doesn't make sense because ultimately when our bodies die, our bodies decompose and turn back into earth. Like if we were to bury our bodies in the soil with nothing, no coffin, no nothing, just wrapped in some like compostable material, our bodies would literally decompose, and all of the insects and things like that would help break our body down to create soil from which new life would spring. And so it's crazy to me that we really believe that we are separate from the earth, and that manifests in all the horrible things we are doing, from the technologies we create that destroy the earth, to our practices that destroy the earth, to how we live our lives that destroy the earth, when we literally, down to like a biological level, are part of the earth. And once the earth is gone, if we don't, kind of turn things around, we have no place to live. And so, um, believing we are separate is what causes us to hurt others, whether we're hurting the earth, whether we're hurting other people physically, psychologically, emotionally, just all of these evils that humanity has kind of created and have done. Is my belief is that we believe that we are separate from others, from terrorism, believing that other people who do another religion are separate, like all of that stuff is a result of our inherent belief in the myth that we are separate from God. And so I guess, like, what can you do? This is obviously my opinion, my beliefs. I have three things that I think that we can kind of do to kind of grow out of that belief that we are separate and really realize the wholeness and oneness that we are in this universe. The first one is to see yourself as a part of the earth. If you truly believe that your body is of the earth, it is made of the same material, carbon, that the earth is, how would you live your life differently? Would you eat differently? Would you practice differently? Would you, start kind of being more environmentally friendly? Would you minimize the waste that you are expelling? Would you consume differently via your money, whether it's food? Would you eat more cleanly? Would you buy more clean products? Like, what would you do if you really believed that you were earth? I would encourage some sort of journaling, some self-reflection, and I don't know, three things that you could do like tomorrow, that you could do to kind of see yourself as a part of the earth and then act accordingly. Two, and I've said this, I think, in like my Black Panther video, but like, quiet your mind. Do what you can to kind of bring yourself into a meditative state where you're literally just you yourself, allowing your mind to be emptied. And I know that we keep saying, it's so hard to empty the mind, but like the point is to make it a practice. But don't do something that's so unrealistic, like, like every day before I wake up, I'm gonna meditate for 10 minutes, or every night. If you can do that, cool. But I think what started me being able to kind of do it more frequently was I started working with the moon, hence Millennium Moonchild, and I became really fascinated with the moon cycles and how it related to women and menstrual cycles. Like all of that kind of started this rabbit hole into where I am now. But I don't know if every first of the month you're going to kind of sit quietly and do your calendar for the month or the week, and sit for 10 minutes, 5 minutes, 2 minutes, and just do some deep breathing, in and out, and every time your mind wanders, you go back to feeling the sensation of your breath in and your breath out. And you do that maybe once a month, and then you can do it twice a month, and then maybe you're going every other week, or then soon you're doing every week, and then you're doing every day. But do something that's manageable. But what happens when you start to quiet your mind is you start getting insights into your current life, insights into the world around you. You start to be able to problem solve issues that you're having. It's kind of like, you have a problem, you've been thinking and thinking and thinking, like, you know what, I'm gonna stop thinking about it anymore, I'm gonna go take a shower or whatever, and all of a sudden you come out and you're like, oh yeah, why didn't I think of that? Same concept. You start being able to solve things more easily within your own life because you quieted your mind. You allowed for God, source, your guides, whoever your spiritual team is to kind of help you with the answers, or yourself maybe. If you want to, even if that's too far out for you to believe, but yourself was able to kind of get the answer. So quieting your mind really allows for insights, it allows for problem solving. It's just really important to be able to take that time, no matter how frequently or infrequently you do it, to start being quiet and allowing for your soul to speak. And then the third thing, I had trouble thinking of this, but I think it would be try to filter what you allow into your field. When I say field, I mean into your senses. What you hear, what you see, the things that you speak. Like, what are you allowing in? Like for me, for example, I got rid of my cable a few years ago because I just wanted to like eliminate the need to like watch reality TV. But now that I've moved, I have free cable now, and so I've been watching a little bit more of it. But it's important to really filter what you allow in. Are you allowing in really heavy music that talks about really negative things? Are you watching things on TV that are really negative, whether it's negative in terms of how the people act, the things that the people say, or it's a negative like subject or a dark subject? Like, what are you allowing in? And so I find that when I've tried to like cut down on those things and eventually eliminate them, I have also been able to have, similar to number two, like more insights into myself, my life, things I want to do, things I want to accomplish, how to do those things. I've been connected with people via social media or other means that are also kind of like minded. And so, as you kind of clear out those things by way of what you're allowing in, you're able to kind of like think more deeply, think more in depth. I feel like you grow spiritually. And so, I just think it really important to just be mindful of what you allow in. When I was a kid, actually, we weren't allowed to watch Rugrats because my mom said she didn't want us, I guess, developing Angelica's dirty, stinking attitude. And so, as a kid, I remember being so annoyed because, like, all of my friends would watch it, and we did sneak and watch it from time to time. But as an adult, I kind of get it, right? Like, it's a lot. It's about not having yourself exposed to things that you don't necessarily want to pick up or you don't necessarily want to do. And yes, it's entertaining, but the more you let that stuff in, you just kind of let like things like creep in that you don't necessarily want in your life, per se. And so, I do believe that like all major religions and philosophies kind of have these tenets, or especially the separation within their teachings. But because we've allowed dogma, doctrine, and ritual to kind of get in the way of all those things, we let those things kind of impede the actual like principle of what oneness is, and that we have access to God isn't outside of us, he's not in the sky. And personally, I believe that source is actually a female anyway, because we're the only ones that give life. So why would God as a male be the ultimate life giver? I think there's a masculine and feminine principle, but I think ultimately source was a woman who conceived all of our souls in her womb, and then all of a sudden, and then basically started life out that way. Anyway, but yeah, I think we allow dogma, doctrine, discipline, rituals get in the way of this core tenet that we are all one. I just think about, Christianity sometimes can be very alienating, very separating, because, we want to shun all of those who don't believe us. And then you have Judaism, which I don't know much about, or Islam, which I don't know much about. But there's this kind of belief that if you're not like me, we can't be friends. We can't interact. But yeah, we'll only interact this much, but we can't truly be integrated because ultimately you don't believe what I believe. And I don't think that's what it's about. We literally are all one, and all of these philosophies and religions are kind of getting to this oneness principle. But again, you have this dogma and doctrine that are taking away from that. And so, yeah, that's what I believe separation consciousness is that the ultimate belief that we are separate from source, and that's not the case. We're here to kind of reintegrate our alignment and I don't know, our source aspect. it. And as I said, like once you really believe that, then you really start understanding that everything you need is in here. It's in your soul. You already have all of the wisdom, all of the knowledge, all of the tools you already need are in here. When you start believing that, then things start like opening up for you to be able to accomplish what it is you need to accomplish for yourself, for your life, for your spiritual growth. So, yep, thank you for watching, and those are my thoughts on separation consciousness. I'll see you again soon.